All right. Good afternoon. My name is Angel Rivera, aka The Handsome Cynic. This is episode 17 of The Handsome Cynic Live. I'm live with you at 2:15 Eastern and Pacific Eastern Standard Time, whatever. And hope you guys enjoy the show today. I'm going to be on probably an hour to hour and a half, depending of how quickly we get through the stories that I have for you. And all this other stuff. So, hope you guys look forward to this. Hold on a second. My mouse keeps trying to fall over. Miguel H already put a comment, which I assume was before the stream. Thank you. By the way, do me a favor, like the stream, share it out, subscribe, all that good stuff. Helps out the channel a lot. Uh, let me let me go to the bathroom real quick because I do need to go to the bathroom. I'll be back like in 5 minutes, or hopefully quick as possible. So just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, he's a very dangerous man. Sorry about that. I'm back. Oh god, kind of tangled up here. There we go. Oops. My apologies. Had kind of emergency, needed to go to the bathroom, so I'll just leave it at that. I had an emergency bathroom break I needed because, it would have been bad if I did what I had to do right here in front of everybody. And I leave it at that. I'm not going to go into detail, but it needed to be done. It's done, and now I'm ready to go. I'm going to give everybody a couple more minutes to get on. How's everyone on this great Friday? Today we'll be discussing mostly the Supreme Court decisions that came down today. Oops. And we'll also be discussing more Ukraine monies. We'll be discussing the 3 Supreme Court decisions that came down, which was the affirmative action case, the student debt relief case, and the 303 Creative LLC decisions. I'll be discussing all that. As well, we're getting reaction. I'll be reacting to certain online left or liberal commentators. I think if you've seen me well enough, I think you know who I'm referring to, but we'll get to him in a moment. As well, I'll be I'll be very briefly though talking about the monies Ukraine has been getting. More money. This happened last week, but I was able to cover it because I wasn't able to stream for personal reasons last week. But everything's fine. So I don't want people to be too concerned about me. It's just that I couldn't stream last week. So we'll get to that. Oh, we'll definitely get to that. Here we go. So since I put it in the title for last week, I figured I'll start off with this real quick. Hello, Bryce. Appreciate the. I figured since I put it here from last week, I will start off with this. This is the title I had for last week, but I couldn't stream for reasons, so personal reasons. So, which is why I thought I would talk about it real quick here, and then I'll give my thoughts, and I'll move on to the Supreme Court decisions and some other stuff. So what time is it? Yeah, I'll get started because it's getting kind of. I can't stream until 4:30 or 5, so I gotta go now. So, as everybody knows, happened last week. As everybody knows, the United States government, the Pentagon, keeps doing accounting errors in the billions and billions of dollars. And guess what? All that money always goes to Ukraine. No congressional approval, no nothing. It's just, oh yeah, unfortunately, we did a $6 billion accounting error. And because of that, we have an extra $6 billion to hand over to Ukraine. So the defense contractors can get richer. And then in turn, everybody in Washington gets richer because they're all invested in the defense industry. So this is all one giant money making scheme. This is all one money laundering scheme. That's what I'm looking for. That's all this is. It's a gigantic money laundering scheme, which ultimately Washington all benefits from. Ukraine gets their weapons, defense contractor gets wealthier, and then the Congress people in permanent Washington all can get even wealthier because they're all invested in said defense contractors. Oh God, I have the old man balding trucker look, but whatever. Sorry, you have to deal with it today. I didn't have time to shave. But now let's go to this video real quick and then I'll discuss.
Broadly.
There you go. Oh, by the way, let me know if there's some sort of echo or you can't hear the video or whatever. You can't hear me because I occasionally mute myself and I forget. So in the chat, I appreciate if you were to let me know.
Following up from some announcements earlier this year, during the department's regular oversight of our execution of Presidential Drawdown Authority for Ukraine, we discovered inconsistencies in equipment valuation for Ukraine. In a significant number of cases, services used replacement costs rather than net book value, thereby overestimating the value of the equipment drawn down from U.S. stocks and provided to Ukraine. Once we discovered this misvaluation, the comptroller reissued guidance on March 31st, clarifying how to value equipment in line with the Financial Management Regulation and DoD policy to ensure we use the most accurate of accounting methods. We have confirmed that for FY23, the final calculation is $3.6 billion, and for FY22, it is $2.6 billion, for a combined total of $6.2 billion. These valuation errors in no calculation is $3.6 billion. Confirmed that for FY23,
FY means fiscal year, by the way, if you don't know. So fiscal year 23.
the final calculation is $3.6 billion, and for FY22, it is $2.6 billion, for a combined total of $6.2 billion. These valuation errors in no way limit or restricted the size of any of our PDAs or impacted the provision of support to Ukraine. And while the DoD retains the authority to utilize the recaptured PDA, this has no bearing on appropriated USAI or Ukraine PDA replenishment funding approved by Congress.
What? Like what? What she said was so confusing and like, oh well, we overpriced certain things or we underestimated certain things. It was 3 billion one year, 2 billion the other year, so it's a total of $6 billion, and all that money goes to Ukraine. Does anyone have a problem with that? No, great. Let's just move on, right? Let's just move on, please. I mean, let's just give billions of dollars to Ukraine and let's all enrich ourselves, okay? Nobody has any problem with that? Great, let's just move on. And let's just move on to what we usually do here at the Pentagon, which is give a bunch of people money and then the defense contractors shit ton of money. They make weapons, they sell them to other countries to do more war, and then we all enrich ourselves through dividends because we invest in said defense contractors. Is it me? If any of you ever played Metal Gear Solid 4, it's exactly what's going on here. It's a war economy. I mean, without the wars, the U.S. government's fucked. There's no defense contractors. There's no money going around. Nothing. It's a definition of a war economy. If you play Metal Gear Solid 4, you know exactly what I'm talking about. About all these wars just to make money and just to enrich a select few, while the rest of us were fighting these wars and dying and getting maimed in them. And then the United States doesn't properly fund the Veterans Department, so we have veterans who have mental problems or physical problems or all these issues, which they get nothing. They get very little help from the Veterans Department. So it's like, okay. In 2020, the Pentagon paid, or what? I mean, I want to say, uh, no. In 2020, the Pentagon paid Boeing over $200,000 for 4 of the trash cans translating roughly. Yeah, basically. Yep, it's like Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one that's played that game. I know that if you people have played that game, thank you, Bryce. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like Metal Gear Solid 4. No matter what, it's always good. Screw Google. What's up, man? Thank you for joining me again. I mean, you've joined me on most of my streams. Greatly appreciate it. And, I mean, this is just a bunch of bullshit. Everybody in Washington enriches themselves while people die, while we, the working class, dies. Which is why I never will never fight in any wars. I will never. I'll get to this in a moment. Marianne Williamson, but when in 2000 I graduated high school in 2004, and I'll tell the story real quick. I graduated in June of 2004. What's up? And in the summer after I graduated from high school, I was working. I didn't go to college until years later because I didn't want to go to school. Anyways, I had this military guy, a recruiter, that basically kept I saw this guy nearly every day in the neighborhood, like just begging me to take a test or begging me just to come in to fucking to we'll give you free college, we'll do this, or we'll do that, we'll help you, if you just go to Iraq, and if you go and go through a physical examination and sign up, we'll give you benefits, but you have to sign a 4-year contract and you'll most likely die, but yeah, we'll give your family benefits. Don't worry. If do you have kids? Do you have something? They were basically trying to cajole me into entering the military to fight in the Iraq War in 2004. I was like, yeah, no, thank you. Yes, I could use the college education. Yes, I could use the financial bonuses. Yes, I could use this, but ultimately, yeah, I'm not risking my life over him. At the time, I was like, no, I work a decent job. I'm not like, it's not like make $1 million a year, but I was making enough money to survive. I was home. I went home. I mean, no interest. I had no interest in fighting in Iraq, somewhere who didn't attack us. One, two, I had no interest. It's like, really, you want me to die for a cause I don't believe in? I don't believe in this. I mean, yeah, all these nice benefits and stuff, and maybe if I had a kid, I might have considered it. But even then, it's like, no, fuck no, I'm not going to those goddamn wars. Even in 2004, I was like, no, I'm good. So yeah, now even today, I mean, I've seen this type of stuff continue. Now I'm going to get to Marianne Williamson real quick. I'm going to get to this real quick because I do want to get to the Supreme Court decisions and give my wannabe lawyer opinion on them. So this is Marianne Williamson. I think it was last week too. She went on Kim Iverson's show. So this is from last week, I believe, and Kim Iverson asked her about the war, the Ukraine thing. Yes, on the importance of continuing to send weapons to Ukraine. Her worry that the left in America today doesn't give any sense of urgency to the Ukrainians is why she resents other candidates in the race. Blah blah blah. So basically, Iverson's asked her a question about Ukraine. So
What
we're
is your
going to. Whoops, sorry. We're going to listen to this, and I'll give my thoughts.
what is your stance on the Russia-Ukraine war? I know you've said we should fund more or give more weapons to Ukraine. Where are you at with this crisis today?
There are people who seem to think that if you know how to put the word proxy in the same sentence as the word war, that you have it all figured out. Well, I don't think it's quite that simple. There are many people who just use that phrase proxy war as though that's it. This is a complicated situation. Did the United States meddle? Yeah, we obviously did. Should we have put those Aegis missiles in Poland? Absolutely not. But a lot of that conversation on the left in America today leaves out any sense of agency for the Ukrainians, for the Latvians, for the Estonians, for the Lithuanians. Look at what Finland is doing now. Finland was neutral for decades and has now joined NATO.
Oh
So
my
I do
God.
not buy the picture that Ukrainians aren't people. They're somehow
Yeah, it's a proxy war. I mean, she's trying to make it seem like people are dumb. Like, oh, just because they know how to use proxy and war together, that means that they think they know what they're talking about, but they really don't. It's a complicated situation. Look, it's so she's so condescending. She's so arrogant in this. You know who she sounds like? Kyle Kalinske. I mean, Kyle Kalinske literally picked her up and was like, "You should run for president." Marianne's like, "Okay, fine, run for president." And he's pushing her. They're pushing her. Him. I'll get to Kyle in a second. He did a video just this morning, which was laughable. But I can't believe how. I'll continue because I don't. It's
cardboard cutout, and they have simply done what we told them to do. This is not the United States removing Mossadegh and putting in the Shah of Iran. I don't believe that that's what 2014 was. I believe that if you look at the way the
that, that
Ukrainians
that's
have
exactly what it was. That's the United States meddling in Ukraine, removing Yanukovych and putting in the new government, which was friendlier to the U.S. and to the West. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. Like when Mossadegh was removed in Iran, and wait, Iran? It was Iran, right? Is it? I'm trying to think. No, yeah, it was Iran. Sorry. Removed in Iran, they put in the Shah of Iran, who was friendlier to the U.S. Then, which led to the Iranian Revolution in the late 70s, which is the government that's in power today. So great, genius job by the U.S. of allowing a Muslim extremist force to take over the government of Iran when they already had, Mossadegh, who was kind of, left, he was to the left, and like, no, we can't have any leftism, so we got to remove him. Oh shit, it turns out that fundamentalist right wingers took over in Iran. Huh, that's weird. Anyway, that's exactly what happened here in Ukraine. Yanukovych did an economic deal with Putin. The United States didn't like that, so they removed him, and they put in a new government, which Zelensky leads, and now today, and now all of a sudden now look, this is speculation, but at some point the right wing Nazis in Ukraine are going to take over that government, like officially. They're going to remove Zelensky. Either he's gonna be crewed out or he's going to be killed. Something's going to happen where the Nazi government, the Nazi military of Ukraine will take over that government. Because that's exactly what happens. You say, "Oh no, it's not the same thing." It's like it is the same fucking thing. It's the same thing.
Fighting right now, Kim, the kind of spirit that those people are showing, that doesn't come from people who are just working at the behest of the US State Department. So and I also resent people saying, like, they're the pro peace candidate if they haven't figured out how we got here. No, excuse me, we all agree on how we got here. 85, 90% of what you said, I would agree with. The point is, what are you going to do now? If somebody says, okay, we're going to completely withdraw any support right now, the last thing that would happen there is peace. There would be such a crushing war and a destruction of Ukraine. There has to be a diplomatic.
No, they wouldn't be. If you stop giving money to the Ukrainians, they would surrender instantly. They would surrender. They would surrender and agree to the terms that were initially signed when the war first started. And the Russians would leave and nothing ever happened. Instead, it's like, nope. It said, no, I mean, obviously the Russians would crush Ukraine if we don't give them money. So basically, he wants to give them more money. Like, that's their position ultimately. Give the Ukrainians more money. And we'll keep giving them money for at infinitum until somehow, in some way, the Russians are defeated in Ukraine, even though that's not going to happen. So I get a little bit more to this. So yeah, let's finish it off.
Solution. Denmark, for instance, has now offered to do a summit. They've said it can't just be Ukrainian allies. It has to also be India, also be China, also be Brazil, all of which is realistic. Like I said, it's a multipolar world now. We should be supporting those diplomatic efforts, and I absolutely would.
No, she wouldn't. I don't think she would for a second, because ultimately the deep state isn't going to allow her to do that. I mean, she thinks that she's actually president, but she isn't. Washington is completely controlled by the deep state. So even if she wanted, in theory, to do some peace talks in Ukraine, that's for Ukraine, Russia, that's not something the United States is going to support anytime soon. Because they got to get their money out of it. They got to get their pound of flesh, their money out of that war. Anything else I wanted to cover? No, these are old things I have here. I already did a video on this. Alright, well, that's that. Now let's move on to the Supreme Court striking down student debt relief. Let's move on to that. That's way too small. Alright, here we go. Breaking! The Supreme Court struck down by the Biden administration student debt relief plan. Today's ruling, along with yesterday's striking down of affirmative action, which I'll get to in a minute, represents a huge blow to educational opportunity for all. We are calling for the Biden administration and the Department of Education to move quickly with other paths with debt load and provide relief. So that's now we have hack Victor Shi. Let me read his tweet. Please do not forget that President Biden promised he would cancel student loans. He delivered for all of us. No, he didn't promise to cancel student loans. He promised to cancel some student loan debt. And he delivered for us all. But every Republican justice in the Supreme Court struck down his program. So please do not go around blaming President Biden. Blame this on the Supreme Court. I know a lot of people will be angry. I know a lot of people will be upset, but none of this was President Biden's doing. Of course not. Don't blame Biden. Whatever you do, don't blame Biden, guys. Blame the Republicans. Blame Bernie Bros. Blame anyone, but please just don't blame the president. This is all President Trump and the Republican court that he built. Focus your energy on make sure this never happens. They're reelecting Biden in 24. And what? And then what? Unless you're expecting one of the justices to die, Biden isn't appointing another justice in if he's reelected again, because the justices are in the court right now are still pretty young and healthy. So yeah, I don't know what voting for the president's reelection is going to do for anybody. Where I'm right, hey, kill your ever gorgeous. All right, so now I'm going to get to. She knows exactly what she's doing too. Yeah, of course. I mean, Marianne Williamson is like your She was picked by Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball to run. It's obvious. It's painfully obvious from the beginning. They've been pushing her since the beginning. Also, you have her not knowing anything about foreign policy. It's obvious that brutally unprepared for the job when it comes to foreign policy. Kind of like Kyle Kalinske. He doesn't know shit about foreign policy. He barely knows anything about domestic policy, that man. And somehow, what are we supposed to be? Am I supposed to be impressed because he speaks with big words and he has this fake confidence coming out, like talking about how he knows about everything when he doesn't? So no, that's Marianne Williamson is who built her, which is Kyle Kalinske and his wife Crystal Ball. And by the way, if you hear some blowing, I apologize. There's landscapers out here on the complex mowing the ground, blowing wind and shit. So hopefully you guys are not hearing this, but hope, but maybe you most likely are. All right, so yes, I know I had to respond to a Kyle Kalinske video. I'm sorry, but but I couldn't help myself. I can't help myself. They made a video. These rich douchebags here, as you can see, so they have to show off Crystal Ball's multi-million-dollar home, her multi-million-dollar land. Look at that; it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful piece of land. You can see it, but at the same time, it's really douchey of them to do that. So this is Kyle Kalinske and his wife getting mad about Supreme Court striking down student debt relief. They also talk about affirmative action, and they also talk about some other Supreme Court cases. So I'm going to play most of this, not all of it. Hopefully, you guys not hearing this noise because it's literally right in front of my building. So let's see.
Coming at you.
Oops. Kyle thinks he's cool. Well, he always thinks he's cool. You know that he doesn't understand. He always thinks that he's cool. You know, he's great. That he's just he's a dork, but he thinks he's cool. All right, let's watch this.
All right, y'all. Got some big breaking news coming at you from what's supposed to be a vacation. We're like 5 minutes away from leaving for vacation, and then of course this news drops.
Get a load of that. Get a load of that. He's like, hey guys, we have to make this video. We are 5 minutes away from going on vacation. On her very lavish, wealthy vacation that we're going on today, guys. Which, by the way, is entirely paid for by my wife. I have very little money. But yeah, we're all going on vacation. You know, this is all fun but we had to make a video. We had to make a video because I'm desperate for ad revenue, and I want I want the views. Even though you could have very easily waited to Monday morning to do this video, or Monday, whenever she does a show on Monday. But yeah, we had to do this today because we have to make money. I have to make money, so yeah, that's why it's just incredibly douchey. It's like, oh yeah, we're 5 minutes away from going on vacation, guys, but at the same time, I have to talk about politics because I mean, obviously, this is a very important issue that couldn't wait till Monday morning. So yeah, so let's see what else they say.
Which means we got to pick up the camera immediately. But
And even he admits to it. He's like, oh yeah, we got to pick up the camera immediately, guys. We got to give our opinion. That could wait till Monday morning. But yeah, I mean, we have to give our opinions right now. Right now, even though if you look at Crystal's face, she's like, she didn't want to be there. Like, she wants to go on vacation. She's like this. Hold on. She's like, come on, Kyle. Really, motherfucker? Really? Really, you wasting our time with this when I want to go on vacation? Like, I guarantee you, hello, Carlos. I appreciate you joining us. But it seems like, look, I'm speculating, but it seems like I think they always argue when they make these videos. They're like, Kyle wants to say, hey, sweetheart, hey, this news broke, baby. This news broke, and we have to make this video now. She's like, motherfucker, I don't want to make these videos. Let's wait till Monday. I want to go on my vacation. I want to go to wherever the fuck they're going. I don't know where they're going, but I want to go to, let's say, I want to go to the Hamptons. I don't know where the fuck they're actually going, but I want to go to the Hamptons. But Kyle's like, no, but we've got to make this video, baby. We're politics. I do politics. That's all I know how to do. And he doesn't read the room. He doesn't realize, that she's unhappy with this. She's clearly unhappy with this. She don't want to do this. Like she wants to be on her way to the Hamptons or where the fuck she's going. They're going. It's obvious every time they do one of these videos. It's like she's pissed. She's had a look on her face like, God damn it, man. I mean, I'm having buyer's remorse about marrying this motherfucker. All right, now let's keep going.
The Supreme Court, there were 2 student loan debt cases that were in front of the Supreme Court. One of them, the Supreme Court ruled, you guys don't have standing. So that stood. And so there was a glimmer of hope and sunshine there where I was like kind of excited, like, oh my goodness. Then literally like within 2 minutes, I saw from More Perfect Union that the Supreme Court has now officially struck down Biden's student loan debt forgiveness plan. So, I mean, it goes without saying, this is absolutely devastating. This comes on the heels of yesterday. They struck down affirmative action. So this is 2, right-wing decisions in a row. Let me give you some of the specifics of it here.
2 right-wing decisions in a row. Even though he did agree with it, he's going to talk about how right-wing the court is, how they lost authority, how they lost the respect of the people, even though they did a decision recently that Kyle did agree with. Which is weird because Kyle keeps saying, he says in this video again that they have lost credibility. But they did a decision he agreed with recently. So, yeah.
Here they say the Supreme Court on Friday blocked the Biden administration's student debt relief plan, stopping more than 40 million borrowers from receiving loan forgiveness and delivering a major defeat to one of the president's key campaign promises. The high-stakes decision will limit President Biden's options to deliver on his commitment to cancel $10,000 of student loans for low- and middle-income borrowers. The secretary asserts that the HEROES Act grants him the authority to cancel $430 billion of student loan principal. It does not, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote. Biden's plan would have canceled up to $20,000 in loans for Pell Grant recipients and $10,000 for other borrowers if the individual's income is less than $125,000. And then you guys know the specifics of that. So
No, it doesn't. The HEROES Act, they used the wrong law. And I think Biden did it on purpose. They used the wrong law because the HEROES Act does not give the authority to do anything. It only talks about the veterans, I believe. They can cancel veterans' student loan debt. But they can't cancel everybody's student loan debt. What does that is the Higher Education Act in 1965. That's what does that, because that gives the president or the Secretary of Education the authority to not collect on the student loan debt because it's the government's debt. But they used the wrong law, the administration, and I'm sure they did it on purpose because ultimately they don't want to cut student loan debt. So they used the HEROES Act, and then it's like, oh, it failed. Oh well, we tried, guys. Please vote for us. Give us your vote when I run for re-election next year. That's what that was. Let's read some of the comments. Who's holding the camera? I think it's Kyle, because he's like this. You see his arm kind of like that. So I think it's Kyle. At one point he does this too, and he readjusts with the other hand. So at one point, I'm pretty sure it's Kyle. Kyle get lit over with will we be late for a dinner reservation. Yeah, Crystal's furious right now. It's like she can't believe she has to do this fucking video right before I'm about to leave on vacation. So probably Kyle with a selfie stick. Yeah, it's Kyle because he's like this. I don't know whether it's a selfie stick or whether he's doing it like this just with his hand. Like that. Like some of us do some like this or your phone. When you have your phone and you just do like that or like that. That's what it seems like he's doing. So I think it's Kyle. It's like a mom with his little kid. Yeah, I mean, when is Kyle putting Crystal in an old folks home? Look, right now, I think that Kyle wouldn't have the balls to do that. That's because Crystal clearly wears her pants in that relationship. She's the one with the money. She's the one with the house. She's the one with the fame, quite frankly, because she was an MSNBC host at one point, and she worked at The Hill, so she's the one with the fame, the name. Kyle is just kind of mooching off her when it comes to fame and name, even money, because she has more money than Kyle ever dreamed of having, even though he's rich himself. So, yeah, let's just continue with this.
So, look, the gist of it is he did the student loan debt forgiveness under the HEROES Act. He signed an executive order under the HEROES Act, which was basically a COVID-era law. and they're saying you don't have the authority under that. Now, what I've been arguing for a while, and many others have been arguing for a while, like the people at the Debt Collective and many experts who focus on this issue, we've been arguing you need to do it under the 1965 Higher Education Act, which gives the Secretary of Education the authority to basically do whatever they want with the loans, because the federal government owns like 90% of student loan debt. So, I mean, it stands to reason. It seems intuitively true that they can do whatever they want with that debt. If they want to wipe the slate clean, they could wipe the slate clean. But the Supreme Court said this particular avenue that you went down, you're not allowed to do it. Now, I don't know. My guess is, first of all, if Biden doesn't try to strike it down another way, using the 1965 Higher Education Act, I think that is like almost political suicide for him.
Yeah.
Because you already got everybody... pathetic. Yeah, you already got everybody's hopes.
Hey, Kyle, guess what? He's not going to do it. He's not going to use the Higher Education Act in 1965. Here's the thing. He knows. The administration knows. Everybody knows that he was using the HEROES Act so to get overturned. They did it on purpose so they can be, hey guys, we fought. We fought for to slightly reduce your student loan debt. We fought, but not really. I mean, because we knew it would be overturned. And so please vote for us again. So we don't do anything. Excuse me. We do anything about student loan debt. So basically, the administration is a big fuck you to students because they knew it would be overturned. There's a couple of members of INN who currently have student loan debt. I think Colin is one who hosts INN News, and Lucy, a Blue Moon Red Wine, also has student loan debt, which is why she's really passionate about this, and so is Colin, I'm sure. And the reason why I could have finished college if I took out loans. The reason why I didn't was because, I'm good. I'm not taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars student loan debt for what? To get a piece of paper that I might not use, that I maybe won't be able to use because nobody's hiring. So it's like, yeah, I would rather just quit college now and I'll do something else in my life. So that's why I made the decision. But let's go back to this video.
Up. It was a great policy. I gave him a lot of credit over it. He was trying to defend it in court, but I
gave him a lot of credit for it, guys. I kissed Biden's ass. He put up a incremental fake policy that barely cancel any student loan debt, and I gave him credit for it. You see, I love Joe Biden, guys. I give him credit for shitty policies and incrementalism, and it's not his fault. It's the Supreme Court fault. Please don't blame Biden. Biden didn't do nothing wrong. Fucking Kalinske.
Obviously, you hit a brick wall here. So it's like, are you going to continue the fight? Are you going to continue the fight? And, is going to, his numbers.
No, he's not going to continue the fight, Kyle. He's done. He's focusing on his re-election bid. That's what he's doing. He's not worried about student loan debt right now. He'll campaign on it, though. He'll say, you see the Supreme Court. I mean, I tried to do it, but the Supreme Court took it away. So you must vote for me and Democrats in order to, get more Supreme Court justices so we can finally get my shitty student loan debt policy through the Supreme Court. That's a nice deck. I'm not sure you guys can see it, but if you look at the reflection on Kyle's glasses, you can see the deck, in her house. If you look, yeah, you could see the reflection of the deck in Crystal's house. It's a nice deck. I wish I had that deck. Look at Kyle's glasses. You haven't seen them. I can't make it any closer, I don't think, but hold on. No, I can't. It just moves 10 seconds. But, yeah, if you look at Kyle's glasses, you can see you see that deck. I would love to have that deck because I put my barbecue out there and I'd be cooking up some ribs or chicken or hamburgers that I make. I make natural hamburgers. I don't like buying the frozen ones, but I digress. That's what I'd be doing right now. I would not. I mean, that's a beautiful property. Like, where am I going to go on vacation for? It's like that. I'll stay there day and night. I wouldn't go anywhere. But that's just me. I mean, I digress. Let's keep going.
Numbers plummeted among young people. If he doesn't fight, this will make it plummet even more. But it might cut in another direction too, in the sense that I think people know that it's a Republican Supreme Court that struck this down. So, like, will they actually blame Biden? I don't know. You mentioned, hey, maybe they'll do this. They'll use this as like a
Biden's the president. They'll blame him. Because here's the thing about being president. When something good happens and you got nothing to do with it, you'll get credit for it because you're the president. But if something goes horribly wrong and you got nothing to do with it, you'll take the blame because you're the president. I'm sorry, that's how being president works. Is the American people will not blame the Supreme Court. They're not political junkies. They're not going to go around and say, "Oh, well, the Supreme Court right now, guys, is Republican, so obviously we have to blame the Republicans, right? We can't blame the president because no. They're going to blame. Most Americans will blame the administration for this. It's like COVID, just like COVID. By the way, you got the blame for COVID. Trump had nothing to do with it. And Trump didn't release COVID. Trump couldn't control COVID, and he got the blame for it because he was the president. I mean, that's the nature of the job. You get blamed for shit nothing to do with. So no, Joe Biden will get the blame for this. And Kyle is like, "Oh, will he get the blame for it? Will he not get the blame for it?" I think the American people will blame the Supreme Court, hun. What do you think? And here's Crystal's face, like, "Motherfucker, I don't want to be here. I want to be on vacation so I can get my nails done and get my hair done and go and find a black guy with a big one and go cheat on you with him. That's what I want to do, guys. That's what I want to do, Kyle. I don't want to talk about policy right now, sweetheart. I want to get nice and beautiful for my black man or Latino man that will satisfy me the way you can't, honey. So that's what's gonna happen this weekend. But I digress. I can't prove that, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here in their relationship. To be clear, I'm speculating, but it's with Crystal Ball and Kyle. I'm sure that could be the nature of their relationship right now.
campaign issue to be like, you need to vote for us because we need more liberal justices on the court. But at the end of the day, look, this is a disaster because so many people, this was such a tremendous relief for so many people.
Yeah.
Now the Supreme Court put their middle finger up. And look, in my opinion, these are just activist judges. They have a right-wing ideology and they are activists. They're not doing the plain face reading of the law.
They're activists. These Supreme Court activist judges. Okay. That's interesting because the term activist judges came from the right, and after the 1972 Roe versus Wade, basically in the 70s, that's where activist judges initially came from. That's when the right started using it because they ruled abortion constitutional because of medical privacy and some other stuff. I don't know the exact details, but to me, Roe versus Wade was never constitutional. And I want to be clear before people say I'm anti-abortion. I'm not. The women should have access to abortion. What I'm saying is Roe versus Wade as a Supreme Court decision is not it's wrong. It was wrong based on the Constitution and wrong based on the law. However, if Congress would have codified Roe versus Wade into law, I'd be perfectly fine with it. Perfectly fine as a law. But a Supreme Court decision, it's like creating a new law, and that's not the Supreme Court's job. Let's read some of the comments here. A lot of people have commented. I don't want to just ignore people. A lot of people LOLing after my brilliant analysis of Crystal and Kyle's relationship. Need to find a bull. Yeah, Crystal needs to find one. That's that's true. Kyle talks out his ass and swallows that shit. Yep, definitely. She definitely has a private tennis lesson planned. Yep. I mean, Crystal, I've been crying about the Marianne Williamson campaign explosion. Well, Marianne Williamson lost 2 campaign managers in the last month. So that tells me her presidential campaign is just about done. She'll be endorsing Joe Biden soon enough. And what will these two, Crystal and Kyle, do? Will they endorse Joe Biden or will they go to RFK? That's the question I want to know because once Marianne drops out, RFK is the only one left. So are they going to be, we have to support RFK. We have no choice. Got to defeat Biden. Or will they endorse Joe Biden? They'll endorse Joe Biden. They hate RFK Jr. because he's anti-vax. And these two authoritarians here are pro-vax. So, which is why there's no way they'll support RFK. But I digress.
This law has been invoked previously to eliminate certain kinds of student loan debt, even under Republican administrations.
The Higher Education Act, not the HEROES Act. That's the difference. And he said it. Kyle said it. Well, they used the HEROES Act, and the Supreme Court said you can't use the HEROES Act. No, they used the Higher Education Act because the Department of Education or Secretary of Education has control whether they collect on these student loans or not. It's up to them. Congress already given them that authority, but Congress did not give them that authority under the HEROES Act. So Joe Biden and his administration purposely put the kibosh to this, buried this because they knew it would lose in the courts. And Kyle's acting like, oh, well, they've done this before. Republican administration done this before. Yeah, by using the Higher Education Act and not the HEROES Act. Come on, man. This is simple stuff.
So for them to strike it down now is just a middle finger.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Biden administration, obviously I support them fighting in every way they possibly can, but because I agree with your assessment of the character of the court, that it's a political institution and not like an, even-handed judicial institution, that it doesn't really matter what law the Biden administration used to justify.
If they would have used the Higher Education Act in 1965, it would have gone through the court most likely. They may have not liked it, the conservatives in the court, but ultimately it is constitutional. It is the law of the land. So they would have gotten through, I'm pretty sure.
The debt cancellation, they would probably strike it down in a similar 6-3 partisan fashion, but you got to try and you got to fight, and then you have to aggressively make the case.
Hold on. Also, Crystal made the claim that the Supreme Court is political. It's partisan and political. And conservatives do this too. It's not just liberals. Conservatives do this too. When the court rules against liberal or conservative orthodoxy, they'll turn around and say the Supreme Court's political, it's lost credibility, it's this and that, it's horrible, we need to reform it. Both sides do this when the Supreme Court rules against their orthodoxy. Like now with this case, now Crystal Ball is talking about how it's a political institution, guys, and it's lost all credibility and all this other stuff. And meanwhile, when Supreme Court rules in liberals' favor, they love the Supreme Court. Oh, well, the Supreme Court did something right. This is huge. The Supreme Court's great again, isn't it, guys? This is nonsense from Crystal Ball. Let's read some more comments. Yup, it'll be Joe. We already know Kyle is a Biden bro and Crystal vaccine red line against RFK, even though Marianne held the same position as vaccine as RFK in the past. That was 2020. I specifically remember how both Crystal Ball and Kyle were Bernie supporters. And Marianne Williamson, real quick, thank you for the comment, Pittsburgh dude 87. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, Marianne Williamson 2020. Anyways, Crystal and Kyle were both Bernie bros. And I think Kyle himself criticized Marianne for her anti-vax stance. He did a video on his channel criticizing Marianne for her anti-vax stance and how there's no way she win Democratic primary because she's anti-vax. Now, fast forward 4 years later, and now Kyle is friends with Marianne Williamson. All of a sudden, her anti-vax stance doesn't matter. Kyle, it's the same stance she had in 2020. And then all of a sudden, then Kyle ignores that. But meanwhile, he'll attack RFK for that, for this pretty much the same position that Marianne Williamson has. You see how this works? Once you become friends with politicians, you'll change your position on a lot of what they had to say in the past. You'll change your own positions in order to maintain access to that politician and be friends with her and have her officiate your wedding, by the way, which is a whole nother issue which Crystal and Kyle cannot get over. I mean, to this day, they can't get over it because people always pointing that out, that she officiated their wedding, even though she's a presidential candidate and they're supposed to be covering her as political commentators.
In the election that, hey, if you want to actually have any sort of material benefit and receive any sort of student debt relief, we have got to change the composition of the court. And oh, by the way, I mean, I would support going further and advocating for court packing and, more aggressively asserting control over the judiciary because, yeah.
Whoa. Did you hear that? Did you hear what she said there? She said, I would advocate and strongly support court packing. Okay, fine. I'll get to that in a minute. The part that really stood out to me was was that what? Well, let me not misquote her, and let me go back. I want to exactly quote her.
Support. And oh, by the way, I mean, I would support going further and advocating for court packing and, more aggressively asserting control over the judiciary.
More aggressively, more aggressively, so controlling the judiciary, more aggressive control of the judiciary. What does that mean? That means basically, it's forcing the judiciary to do what the administration wants him to do and ruling the way the administration wants him to do. Imagine if Trump said this for a second. And I can't do Trump's accent, so I'm not going to try to do Trump's accent, but imagine if Trump said this. Hey guys, we're going to aggressively control the judiciary. We're going to make sure they rule in our direction, and we're going to do court packing. We're going to do judicial stripping. They get to that, but we're going to do all this stuff to control the court to make sure they rule in our favor. Imagine if Trump did that. How would Kyle and Crystal react to that? Oh, he's authoritarian. Oh, he's a wannabe dictator. Oh, he's this, that, and the third. He's terrible. We got to get him. We got to impeach him and get him out of office. But because she said it, it's perfectly acceptable. It's perfectly acceptable to Crystal Ball for her to say that. I want to
court packing and, more aggressively asserting control.
More aggressively asserting control over the judiciary. That one got me, and that one was like, whoa. These people are truly the authoritarian left. It was like, whoa, man. I mean, to aggressively assert control over the judiciary. Now, let's get to her court packing point, which is just as ridiculous. What court packing is taking the Supreme Court and appointing as many 5 extra justices. Right now, there's 9 justices in the court, 6 conservatives and 3 liberals. So what they want to do is they want to appoint 5 more justices, liberal justices, and make the liberals the majority on the court, which is what's called court packing. Here's the thing with that. Yeah, the president can appoint. The Constitution said the president appoints Supreme Court justices, and the Senate advises and consents on it. In other words, they pass. They vote on, see whether she can get on the court or not. He or she. You can appoint all the justices you want. Doesn't mean the Senate has to even hold a hearing on them or vote on them. So it's not going to work because of that. But even if, let's say if it did work for a second, let's say if somehow they got 5 liberals in the court and now liberals are the majority, what's going to happen? A Republican comes into power and looks at the court and is like, oh yeah, by the way, let's appoint 7 more conservatives. So now we have the majority in the court and they do exactly what we want them to do. And then in 4 to 8 years, another liberal comes into court. It's like, oh yeah, let's appoint another 9 justices in order to regain control of the court. Because since the liberal won the election, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth until another about 30, 40 years, there'll be 215 justices on the court. It's a ridiculous thing to even suggest. It's a ridiculous thing to suggest. It's lazy because ultimately, it's not going to work in the long term the way they want it to work, and it's just incredibly stupid. It's incredibly simple-minded by Crystal Ball. Let's read some of the comments. Hey guys, the court is political. Let's build a new mainstream. Yep. That's all it suggests. Let's get money out of politics. I completely agree with that. Screw Google. We need to end presidential appointments of corrupt judges for lifelong positions. That's the reform I can get behind. Like ending lifetime appointments or putting in some sort of term limits on Supreme Court justices. I'm fine with that. That way they don't accrue too much power and, they're not institutions in Washington. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with ending presidential ending lifetime appointments to the Supreme Court. We should have a vote or have the judges leave when the president's term ends. Well, that's an interesting one. Like this kind of happens with U.S. attorneys. When a president hires a U.S. attorney for each state, as soon as that president leaves office, traditionally every U.S. attorney does resign when that president leaves office, so the new president can hire his or her own U.S. attorneys. But to do that for the Supreme Court, that would mean that every 4 years, every 8 years, we would have a new Supreme Court, which is modeled after the president, whether it be a Democrat or Republican. That's an interesting reform. I don't know whether that would work in the long term, but I'm definitely open to that. That's an interesting argument to have or debate. I'm definitely open to that, though. Let's Carlos Ran Chang says they'll want more judges, more laws, more Congress, and more political parties. Yeah, I mean this is what liberals do. Whenever things don't go their way, they immediately go to the authoritarian flex. Like, oh, let's add more courts, let's add more judges, let's do whatever it takes to have the judiciary rule in our favor. Yeah. Instead of using the correct law and the correct argument in order to get past the Supreme Court. There's more of this.
Control over the judiciary because it's just a political organ at this point. I saw Biden got asked about this by Nicole Wallace in what was largely a really softball interview, but about court packing specifically, and he said something like, oh, that would make the court more political in a bad way, and it's like, that ship has sailed.
But then he also said, like, this is not a normal court at a different time yesterday.
Right.
And it's like, wait, so is it political or is it not political? Right.
Exactly.
What the hell
So
are you
it's
talking about?
Which is it?
Joe Biden doesn't know. Joe Biden doesn't even know his opinion on this. At one point, he says, well, I mean, I don't want to make the court political. And then earlier in the day, he says, well, it's not a normal kind of court. He's sundowning. The man's sundowning. Come on, give him a break, In the morning, he says one thing. In the afternoon, he says another thing. Shit happens. These two are washed up. That's definitely true. Desert Manta said, I never received my YouTube notification. I'm sorry about that. By the way, make sure you like the stream. Make sure you click on the bell to make sure you're notified for all videos, even though YouTube a lot of times doesn't notify you for reasons because the INN channel has clearly been not demonetized, but it's being throttled down for obvious reasons. So make sure you make sure you subscribe, make sure you ring the bell for notifications, even though they a lot of times don't work. But still, I usually go live around 2:15, so most Fridays. So I know a Taurian who writes books. Biden doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. What else is new? Yeah, I mean, in the morning he says one thing, in the afternoon when he's sundowning he says another thing. It's like, and they're acting like Biden is unsubscribed and immediately resubbed if it's notifications. Yeah, that could work. I've done that before. So make sure you push the bell though if you're gonna do that.
But he's such a norms institution.
I know.
That I have no.
You're institutionalist too. No, this is not saying you guys are not institutionalists. It's like, well, I mean, Biden's an institutionalist. So never do anything that'll ruin, our institutions. But you are too. But don't stop pretend that you are these two are some revolutionaries or something.
No, I have no confidence. I mean, there's no way he's going to do that. I just have zero expectation that he would. Even on the question of whether he's even going to try to,
do it the 1965 Higher Education Act way.
I'm sort of doubtful about that because he had to be dragged kicking and screaming to this.
I know.
The only reason he did it at all is because he was forced to pledge something on the campaign trail and said it really clearly, and then he was basically shamed into doing it totally reluctantly. So I think ideologically he does not actually agree with this policy. So I think it's just as likely that he's like, well, we tried. Supreme Court, what are you going to do?
Sounds like what I just said 10 minutes ago. That sounds like exactly what I said 10 minutes ago. And Crystal Ball knows this. That's the thing. She's not stupid. She knows this. But I guarantee you next year she'll tell our audience to vote for Joe Biden, excuse me. He'll tell his audience to vote for Joe Biden. Even though she just said that Joe Biden isn't going to do this. She knows that he isn't going to do this. He isn't going to fight for student loan relief or anything like that. But she'll still tell her audience to vote for Joe Biden in a condescending, smug way like Kyle will. So, and I'll play a little bit more of this, and then I'm going to move on to the other cases that I want to talk about.
His numbers went from 60% among young people when he announced this plan to 30% in recent weeks. So look,
and what does that tell you? That polling sucks. Polling is terrible. I mean, polling goes back and forth, and it's like you ultimately don't. Polling is pretty much useless in today's America. I mean, it's like that's why I don't base any of my political thought or opinions on polls because it just doesn't work. If there's time, oh yeah, man. and liberals do this all the time. So I'm gonna basically copy them. Guys, do you know that Medicare for all is a 70% approval rating? We won. I mean, we Medicare for all is a majority approval rating, guys. Oh, did you know that 95% of Americans are in favor of some sort of gun reform or some sort of not open carry, some sort of gun regulations or assault weapons ban? Did you know that 60% of Americans are in favor of a Social Security for all or what is it called? What's the official name for it? I'm blanking on it, but Social Security for all, basically Social Security expansion. That's 60% of Americans are in favor of it. Did you know that all these polls show that Americans are quote unquote progressive or liberal or whatever, but it turns out that when it comes to elections, half the country votes for Republicans. Why? Because the polls are wrong. The polls are wrong. I'm sorry. They're just abstract opinion polls. They don't matter. You can't base your entire politics, your entire political strategy based on polling. And you have to get on the ground. You have to talk to people. You have to do the work. You can't just sit in your multi-million-dollar studio and cite polls all day and expect you to know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't. UBI. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. UBI. That's what I was trying to talk about. And I ended up saying Social Security expansion, which is the same thing. But did you know that all these Americans are so progressives based on what polling? Polling's meaningless. I mean, what's your evidence? Do you have a study? A scientific study? Do you have something? No, you just have polling. Okay, well, that's why you keep losing. Many citizens want less enforced misery, but we have to vote for it no matter what. That's all right. So let's play a little bit more of this. I don't know how much more I can take of these two.
You want it to stay at 30%? You want it to go lower, or you want it to go up? Listen, I know this.
Oh, another thing. Here's a dirty little secret, Kyle. Young people don't vote. They don't vote in primaries. They don't vote in presidential elections. They do not vote. They do not vote generally. Back in 2016, Bernie Sanders had 95% of youth vote on the 30. He still lost the primary. I mean, yes, I know that the primary was rigged. I mean, I'm not claiming that the primary was on the up and up. It wasn't. I know that. But he had 90% of the youth vote, and he still didn't get enough votes to win the nomination. Yes, I know Hillary Clinton had all the super delegates. Yes, I know it was rigged against Bernie. But even with 90+% of young people support, he still didn't win. In 2020, same thing. He had 80-90% of the young vote. He still didn't win. Young people either don't vote or it's not enough numbers for them to, even if they do vote, it's not enough numbers for them to win the primary. So, yeah, young people don't vote. I'm 36 years old. I'm turning 37 in August. I know. Yeah, in fact, hell, I didn't vote in the midterms. And most likely, I'm not voting in the presidential election either. If I do, I'll probably vote for Cornel West, or I'll put my own name down. I'm gonna vote for myself. Then I'm gonna tell my audience, my tiny audience, hey guys, vote for me. Vote Angel Rivera for president. Write my name down instead of all these shitty candidates out there. If Cornell's not running, of course. If Cornell's running, people probably vote for him. But let's say he's not running. Make sure you vote for me, guys. Right? Angel Rivera on there and write-in candidate. I'm gonna run a write-in campaign. That's what I'm gonna end up doing and bet 20 votes, maybe less. All right, but I digress from that.
Sounds radical and extreme, but it's really not. It's actually an American tradition. Abraham Lincoln ignored the Supreme Court. He was like, oh, really? I don't agree with that, and I think you're judicial tyrants and you're judicial supremacists, so why don't you go ahead and stop me with your army?
Oh fuck! He quoting Lincoln. He brought up Lincoln, this motherfucker. He's so stupid. He's so painfully stupid. All right, I'm gonna real quick go into Lincoln and why he was able to ignore the Supreme Court. What was happening in 1862? What was the big event, Kyle? You see such a genius. Tell me, what was the major political event in 1862? Why did Lincoln able to get away with ignoring the Supreme Court? Oh, that's right. It turns out there was a civil war. There was a civil war which gives the president extraordinary powers during that time. One of the times the president can, because if I remember the story correctly, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court asked Lincoln to write a writ of habeas corpus because he was arresting a bunch of Confederate soldiers and not giving trials and just leaving them in military prisons, and taking away their rights. And the Chief Justice of the court basically asked for writ of habeas corpus, and Lincoln ignored it. Why? Because one of the two times where you can have these extraordinary powers is during a rebellion. And a civil war was definitely a rebellion. So basically, Abraham Lincoln told the court to get fucked, and and they did get fucked. They did nothing. So it's comparing what Lincoln did to what Biden's able to do today is two completely different things. That's what's going on here. And it's so stupid that it's so disingenuous that he brought that up, because he knows this isn't a stupid man here. He knows that he's bringing up nonsense. All right, let me read some of the comments here. There's a lot here. Whoops, did I lose the comments? I walk in and I see Angel torturing himself by listening to Kyle talk. Poor Angel. LOL. What's up, everybody? Yeah, I don't. I can't resist. I tell myself every week, I'm not going to talk about Kalinsky. I'm not going to talk about his dumb shit. I'm going to focus on covering. But he ends up talking about the stuff I want to cover in a very stupid way. So I have to. Of course, I have to respond to that. So, which is why I end up covering him every week. White people and their old white leaders. Angel wants to put a forceful fist into Kyle's gut. Yeah, that's a good point. I want to punch Kyle in the gut, and then when he's down, I'm gonna grab Crystal by her hand, take her to the bathroom, and do what I want to do to her. No, I'm kidding on that one, but yeah, Kyle wouldn't stop me. Even he's not. He doesn't like conflict. He's not really a man. So it's like 7 years ago, get fucked, Abraham Lincoln, maybe. No, I mean this. So yeah, I want to keep going. He continues on this Abraham Lincoln stuff.
Oh, that's right. You don't have an army, and I do. So, and he basically made the court heel. He made the court heel.
Because he was allowed to constitutionally. Because one of the few times you're allowed to have these extraordinary powers at the presidency is during a rebellion, or if the president declares martial law, and that's it. You can't just Biden can't randomly tell Chief Justice John Roberts to go fuck himself. That creates something called the constitutional crisis. A constitutional crisis is what they got mad at when Trump tried to allegedly overturn the results of the election. That was a constitutional crisis. So now what they want Biden to do is create a constitutional crisis. And it's hypocrisy. It's just ridiculous from Kyle. So let's actually do that before I play the video.
Yeah,
So
this
there
is
have
a
been
rogue
times
institution.
where they overreached. Plessy versus Ferguson is the classic example. The entire Lochner era is a classic example, and it took.
Plessy versus Ferguson was the wait, let me remind myself, what was that? Plessy versus, because I don't want to lie here. Ferguson decided May 18th, 1896, record of Supreme Court, National Archives. The ruling that the Supreme Court upheld Louisiana state law that allowed for equal but separate accommodations for the white and colored races. Oh, okay, so that's what I thought it was. That's what I thought it was. Look here, the Plessy versus Ferguson decision, was it wrong? Of course it was wrong. But at the time, within the context at the time, it was like they made it was wrong in today's context. That's definitely it. But at the same time, he acts like they were overstepping their bounds at that time in 1896, and they weren't. They really weren't. We don't like the decision today in the 21st century, but back in the 19th century, that was standard stuff. It was like, hey, at least we're doing separate but equal. So you have white color, you have white fountains, and you have colored fountains, colored people fountains. So yeah, so that's what the Supreme Court was arguing then. Is that it was okay because it was separate but equal. And by the way, I'm not sure if colored is racist. I hope not, but I get confused by what's racist and what's not these days. So let's say basically the old school two-state solution. Yeah, I mean it's colored, but it was separate but equal. That was what separate. That's what Plessy versus Ferguson ruled. And the Lochner era. Let me see that because again, I'm kind of like locked. Late Lochner era Supreme Court. Lawyers call this era jurisprudence the Lochner era, the Lochner v. New York, the 1905 case in which the Supreme Court of the United States struck down a state law that barred bakers from working for more than 60 hours a week. Struck down a state law that barred bakers from working more than 60 hours a week. That doesn't sound that bad. Hold on. Struck down a state law that barred bakers from working more than 60 hours a week. Oh, okay. Never mind. It is bad. So, like, yeah, that was over 100 years ago. Like, it took me a few readings in that sentence to understand what it was saying, so I apologize for that. I rereading that sentence 5 times. My brain doesn't work in normal ways sometimes, and I'm reading the sentence 4 or 5 times, and it's like, that doesn't sound so bad. I don't know. I don't understand why this is so bad. And then I reread it one last time. In the Lochner versus New York case, 1905, which is the Supreme Court of the United States struck down a state law that barred bakers from working more than 60 hours a day. Oh, okay. Well, the Lochner era is pretty shitty. That's definitely true. The Lochner era is a period American legal history from 1897 to 1937, in which the Supreme Court of the United States is said to have made it common practice to strike down economic regulation adopted by a state based on court's own notions of the most appropriate means of the state to implement its considered practices. Yep. So that's that. So Lochner era was a bad time in the court that happened long before any of us was born. So I don't understand why he brings it up, but you're good, Angel. Context is everything. Yep, X probably would have had a problem with it. I blocked that fool, by the way. Cookies, fuck the pronouns. Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, read more. I missed some comments here. Hold on. Kyle Potter puff his chest about news skirt through ordeal. I want Rivera versus Kalinsky octagon rules. Give me 6 months to a year of training. I could probably beat Kyle in a fight because he'd be too scared to fight. But you got to give me 6 months to a year in training. To actually get in every day and train. And get ready. Because I was a pretty good athlete in high school. I mean, I'm not anymore. I've gained about 50 pounds and I'm pretty fat right now. But yeah, you give me 6 months to a year of daily training, I could beat Kyle in a fight, in an octagon fight. All right, let's keep going a little bit more with this.
Took a strong executive branch to bring them to heel, right? Like FDR had to do it as well. So forget even like.
Wait. When did FDR make the Supreme Court heel? I don't know what he's referring to. Is he referring to like the New Deal era when FDR passed the New Deal initially and then the Supreme Court struck most of it down? Because the way I remember that correctly is that the Supreme Court struck down the most of the New Deal. Then FDR got mad and wanted to pack the court, but his own advisors like, no, it's a terrible idea. So they went back and repassed the New Deal, and what they did then, and then they passed it and went through Supreme Court the second time, and they allowed it. Is that what he's referring to? Because that's not what he didn't bring them to heel. In fact, the Supreme Court brought FDR to heel, and he passed the law the way that the Supreme Court wanted it passed. Again, I could be wrong on those details, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So it's another Kyle Kalinske. I guarantee you would suck FDR's dick. if he had the chance, if FDR was still around today, he would cheat on Crystal Ball with FDR. That's how much this man loves FDR. I mean, it's like, oh my, I mean, the way he, and by the way, that New Deal that Kyle lauds and loves so much, black people were not allowed to benefit from the New Deal. Not until long after FDR's death. Why? Because FDR needed the Dixie Democrats to pass the New Deal in Social Security. Without the Dixie Democrats, they had no chance of passing that bill. So, who were racist Southern Democrats. So, black people had no benefits in the New Deal for decades. I don't know the exact year when finally they got it, the black people had access to the New Deal policies like Social Security and stuff like that. But for a long time, because of FDR and the Dixie Democrats, black people had no benefits to that. So, yeah, and also FDR signed Executive Order 1030, which interred the Japanese with no charges for most of World War II. Is Kyle okay with that? I'm sure that, I mean, he never mentions that part. He never mentions that part at all. So, Angel, Kyle loving FDR's shaft. Yeah, I like I said, I would, if FDR were around today, I guarantee you Kyle would cheat on Crystal with him. He loves FDR. He can't get enough of, no matter what. Either he'll laud all his successes, or he's going, or he would, or he minimizes his failures, or he minimizes his mistakes. He does it all the time. Oops.
Like court packing, which I do agree with, and term limits, which I do agree with, you have provisions in the Constitution that allow for what's called court stripping or judicial stripping, which you can pass laws and say, by the way, the Supreme Court doesn't have the authority to do judicial review on this law. You're allowed to do that. That's perfectly constitutional.
Here's the thing with that. Court packing, excuse me, court stripping, judicial stripping, or whatever it's called, or jurisdiction stripping, whatever it's called. There's an issue with that. It's so broadly written. I mean, let me read real quick. Hold on. The part of the Constitution that says that court, oops, court stripping. Uh, so this is Article 3. Hold on, let me find it. No, this is good enough. This is what is Article 3? What is Article 3? Let me try it again. What is Article 3 jurisdiction stripping? I can't even spit that out properly. Additionally, Article 3 exception clause grants Congress the power to make exceptions and regulations to the Supreme Court appellate jurisdiction. Congress sometimes exercises this power by stripping federal courts of jurisdiction to hear a class of cases. Like, to me, that is so vague and that is so broad that it's like, okay, what does that mean? Does it mean Congress is allowed to tell the Supreme Court, oh yeah, you can't hear cases on this, and this? But what happened to judicial review? Marbury versus Madison, one of the first Supreme Court rulings was establishing judicial review. What happened to that? Is that constitutional still? Is court stripping allowed? I don't know if the Supreme Court's addressed this. I mean, they may have, and I don't know about it. It's possible. But still, to me, it's so broad, like court stripping or jurisdiction stripping, that it's not enough for me to say Kyle is right here or he's wrong. I like to say he's wrong because I can't stand the guy, but I don't know enough. Let's see some of the comments here. Because I'm going to move on from this video because I'm running out of time, and then I want to move on to the other court cases. Kyle does have the hair. That's not a possibility. You may be wrong in your analysis of Kyle. Kyle went bent over and hitching table, yells, Crystal, give me the New Deal. And Crystal, Kyle is asking this douchebaggery hasn't even hit midlife crisis. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't hit his midlife crisis. He's terrible. I had enough of him. Yeah, but see, this continues another few minutes, and I don't want to start stopping it. So you get the gist basically. Now let's go to. Are you kidding me? All right, let's do this once. Let's reload this. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get the other two cases real quick. Affirmative action, and then the other case, and then I'll wrap up like before 4 o'clock. So, let's. Hello, can you please load so I can get to the story? No, this isn't the story I want to get to. Where is it? Didn't I open it up? I guess not. Hold on. Here we go. I don't think I thought I opened it up, but I didn't. I thought I opened up the affirmative action thing, but I didn't. So excuse me. Bear with me 1 second while I load this up. So here's a CNN story on it. What the Supreme Court's ruling on affirmative action does and doesn't do. It's a video, I think so.
Harvard, Yale,
All right, so this is a 2-minute clip here from CNN. Angel has a gist for Crystal. New Barbie movie. Yeah, Crystal and Kyle are like Ken and Barbie, aren't they? He was saying that for a while in my chat, and I thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I mean, I could see the resemblance. Especially with that blonde, ridiculous blonde hair Kyle has. Angel has a gist for Crystal. Look, she's an attractive woman, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to marry her because, or maybe, I don't know, but I would definitely like to have a chance with her, but it's like, she married Kyle, then, it's, maybe if I ever met her in person, I would have a chance with her because Kyle is such a weak man. All right, so let's play this 2-minute clip real quick, and then I'll recontinue. Then I'll talk about it and read the chat.
Harvard, Yale, Columbia. Wesley Zoe shows us the rejection letters that ended his Ivy League dreams.
I'm a straight-A student, 4.0 GPA, 4.68 weighted GPA.
Did you get into any Ivy League schools?
I did not.
That was Zoe when we met him 2 years ago.
No, you're lucky you didn't get in because you're gonna be spending a shit ton of money on an Ivy League education, and where meanwhile you could spend a fraction of the money and get that degree from a state-run school, not a private Ivy Leaguer. But let's keep going.
This is where we find him today, soon to be a junior at UCLA.
I think eliminating race in consideration would definitely be a lot fair.
And help you.
And probably, yes, in some sense would help me.
Zoe says he was accepted to every University of California school in the state that banned affirmative action in 1996. What's happened here in California could signal the future for U.S. colleges without affirmative action. UCLA professor Eddie Cole says the impact was immediate.
As soon as that went into effect, you saw at places like Berkeley and UCLA, the black student enrollment among incoming freshmen dropped dramatically.
By more than half at those schools. Across the UC system, black and Latino enrollment fell sharply the next year without
So what this is suggesting, what this is implying, that black and Latino students aren't good enough to get in with their own merits. So what they do instead is we have to have affirmative action because black and Latinos aren't smart enough to get into these colleges without affirmative action. So we have to have these affirmative action rules in order to justify, entering them in this universities. And to me, that's incredibly offensive as a Latino guy because it's like, fuck you. I mean, I can get in. If I wanted to get in, I can get in to these colleges.
affirmative action. But in the decades to follow, the UC system still took a progressive approach to improve those numbers to mid-90s levels, though black student enrollment still lags at UC Berkeley and UCLA only recently returned to mid-90s levels.
So if this decision is made in 1996 and we fast forward to 2023, nearly 3 decades later, to say the numbers have finally improved with the exception of Berkeley, imagine what it's going to look like on a national level. You have to think about the legacy and impact across racial groups and why there are disparities decade after decade, despite so many policies.
I could very easily walk into a classroom and feel like I'm someone who doesn't belong here, when that's not the truth, right?
Nia McClinton graduated from UCLA 2 years ago and now works in Black student outreach. Without such outreach and funding, McClinton sees this.
Do you feel like a lot of doors will close for Black students in this country?
I'm worried that they will. So it's important to reach out and say, like, this is something that is attainable for you.
Wesley Zoe will soon be applying for medical school. He still believes affirmative action doesn't help him, but does see the impact beyond his own academic life.
I will say this, right? Affirmative action does harm Asian Americans, but without it, it will harm all of the minorities in the United States. So that's where I stand right now.
Yeah, that's nonsense. Like, it's like, what the hell? I can't. Oh, it's like, oh, well, I mean, come on. I mean, Black and Latinos aren't smart enough to get in without affirmative action. That's what I read from that, which is why now, anyway, I wouldn't recommend going to college. But if you want to, you got to get in your own merits. You can't expect affirmative action to be there to save you. All right, let's read some of these comments because they're. Angel has a crush on Crystal Ball. When Angel said, take Crystal Ball to the bathroom, do what I want with her, He-Man drown her in a bathtub. Well, you can infer whatever you want out of that. She be ragging constantly. Holy shit. That's a high GPA. He's a really smart guy, but he couldn't get into any of the Ivy League schools. And like, dude, you're lucky because those things are so overpriced that you're getting the same degree a fraction of the cost of any Ivy League school in this country. Crystal is meh. Okay. Make education free for all. You not need affirmative action. I 100% agree with that. Education, Desert Mantis, Desert education definitely needs to be free. What if we had a revolution? You know, we can't afford it. We need trillions for war. You know, I mean, that's what it's all about. War. All right, and now the final case of the day we're gonna get to, if I can do this right. Okay, here we go. It's the case of, it's this case 303 Creative LLC versus Elenis. Well, I'll get to this video in a moment. The Supreme Court on Friday ruled in favor of a website designer who wants to deny her services for same-sex weddings, though no one's asking her to provide such a service. Justice Neil Gorsuch authorized the decision on behalf of the Republican appointees over dissent from Democratic appointees. The First Amendment prohibits the state of Colorado from forcing a website designer to create expressive designs for speaking messages which the designer disagrees with, the majority held. Today, the court, for the first time in history, grants a business open to the public constitutional right to refuse service to members of a protected class. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in her dissent, joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. God. This is the latest high court dispute over whether people can use the First Amendment to avoid complying with anti-discrimination laws. Recall a 2008 decision in Masterpiece Cake Shop, where the court ruled for a baker who, citing Christian beliefs, didn't want to make a cake for a same-sex couple. In that case, unlike here, the couple actually sought to make a cake from the baker. The case the court decided Friday, also in Colorado, involved Lori Smith, who said she didn't want to make wedding websites for same-sex couples due to her religious beliefs as a Christian. She is represented by the Alliance Defending Freedom, the same legal group that argued for the baker in the Masterpiece Cake Shop, Jack Phillips, and is arguing against the abortion pill and ongoing litigation. You can remember the Smith, you can read it here, blah, blah, blah. All right, here's a Nicole Wallace segment, which is about 10 minutes long. And I'm going to play this because there's a meltdown here from an MSNBC panelist, which is hilarious. So let's. Oops. Oops. Let's do that. Oh, I think I fucked up here. I did. I have to go back to the beginning. Sorry about that. I actually not playing the video. Okay, let's do that. So bear with my mistake. 1 minute here. For some reason, I decided I was playing the video, but I didn't bother sharing my screen, which was super genius on my part. All right, so let's start from the beginning again.
Case pitting LGBTQ rights against religious conservatives. It narrowly ruled in favor of a Colorado baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. Remember that? But that majority opinion essentially said at the time that it would wait for a, quote, future controversy to decide the broader legal questions about whether the First Amendment allows businesses open to the public to discriminate based on religion or free speech objections.
I have kind of a hot take on this. My opinion may be a little controversial, but I want to. This guy needs a producer. Yes, I do this all by myself, guys. So I apologize for that error, but let's finish this up.
In the years since, the court refused several opportunities to answer that question, but today the day has come. In opening arguments earlier, the now 6-3 conservative supermajority appeared sympathetic to a website designer who says Colorado's anti-discrimination law violates her right to free speech. She's suing on the premise that she could be punished if she were to refuse to design a website for a same-sex couple. Civil rights groups say that what Smith is asking for, a request rejected by 2 lower courts, is a, quote, license to discriminate. The New York Times says her opponents say a ruling in her favor would allow businesses engaged in expression to, quote, refuse service to, say, Black people or Muslims based on odious but sincerely held convictions. And here was Justice Sonia Sotomayor this morning.
How about people who don't believe in interracial marriage? Or about people who don't believe that disabled people should get married? Where's the line? I can choose.
Well, that's a ridiculous comparison. It's like, and they're specifically talking about having a sincerely held religious belief against serving homosexual couples. There's no people who have a sincerely held religious belief to not serve disabled people or not marry disabled people. I mean, that's kind of a stretch, but let's keep going.
Choose not to sell to those people? This website? Because it's my speech?
Joining our coverage, Maya Wiley, former assistant U.S. attorney, now president of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. Brian Fallon's back, executive director of the Progressive Judicial Advocacy Group, Demand
Karen McCaskill's there, too. I didn't realize she was there the first time I watched this video.
Justice, and Claire McCaskill's still here. Maya, I want to play one more piece of sound today. This is from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
No, I don't care about this.
Holiday season. They want that, and maybe it is. Violate their own, maybe it is. In addition, I think it's important to remind, just like aggressions.
There you go.
I mean, Maya, what Justices Ketanji...
This woman here kind of has a mini meltdown, so I wanted to watch this, and then played their own video, and the dude, that Brian Fallon character, also has kind of a funny meltdown here. So,
Brown Jackson and Justice Sotomayor lay out is truly terrifying, but seems possible.
Sadly, both are true. It is terrifying, and it is possible in a court that has taken a case that flies in the face of its own precedent, something we've seen before. And here's what I mean by that. And I'm going to get personal here because My parents, a black man and a white woman, got married in 1961 in this country, and that was before the Supreme Court in Loving versus Virginia said interracial marriages, you can't discriminate. You can't stop people from getting married because of their race, and had all these implications because my parents had to find a place where they could find people willing to serve them for their marriage process, even though it was not illegal in New York State, which is where they lived at the time. And I look back on the arguments that were made for people, for my parents, that used religion as an argument against black people, white people getting married because they were in love. And it's the same arguments that we are hearing right now in a First Amendment context, trying to use the same arguments that a belief in what the Bible says, literally Harry Truman, the judge in the county court that imprisoned the Lovings, said, which was, it's in the Bible. The judge himself had said we had separate continents with people of different races because God didn't intend them to mix. Well, I sit here as someone who is a product of that mixture saying we are hearing the exact same arguments.
This isn't about black and white. This is about homosexual couples. Like she keeps going on about what her parents went through as a interracial black and white marriage. Again, this isn't about that. This is about simply religious held beliefs that from Republicans. I mean, excuse me, the Republicans. This is from anti-gay, people who are honestly anti-gay, the anti-gay marriage. But it's not about black and white. It's two different things. You can't afford marriage. It depends. If you're talking about a wedding and a reception and a party, that's very expensive. If you're talking about walking to the to City Hall and paying $60 for a marriage license and saying you're married, that's pretty cheap. It depends on what the context of the word marriage or wedding you're talking about. But let me just move on from this woman. She does Alito, Black Santa. I don't want to go too much further into this. Justice Leda Kagan. Hey, where's this dude who runs his mouth here? I think it's at the end. She keeps going. I know the dude pops up. Here he is. All right, let's play these last couple minutes.
The decision to hear this case at all, Ms. Smith's case, was probably driven by several factors: an increasingly assertive six-justice conservative supermajority, a sense that Ms. Smith's designs were more likely to be expression protected by the First Amendment, and the desire of at least some justices to undo or limit Obergefell, the 2015 decision establishing a right to same-sex marriage. So this is real. It's on. What Justice Thomas wrote in his opinion when Roe versus Wade was overturned is very much part of the fabric of this court, and what Justice Sotomayor described as the stench of the court.
All right, what she's talking about is Justice Thomas's opinion when and basically saying we should go after reproductive rights and all these other rights and Obergefell and all that stuff. That was just his opinion. I mean, that doesn't mean the other justices actually agree with it. And this case doesn't prove that other justices agree with that. Why can't I play this video? I got to wrap this up because I got to go cook dinner soon.
She was not impugning her fellow justices. She was talking about the Republican legislators who were passing laws because of the kinds of justices that Trump had picked for the Supreme Court nominations. There's a sense.
This is the orange man bad dog whistle, which this dude takes perfectly advantage of here.
I think sometimes that the left is overreacting, but literally every concern that anyone on the left has had about this court for 2 decades has come to pass and then some.
Right. And
Everything about this case today is dripping with bad faith. The court's decision to hear this case, the arguments being put forward by the people bringing this case. I want to inform your audience about two groups. Let's peel the curtain back for a second. We have two groups here, the Alliance Defending Freedom and the Beckett Fund, that have brought many of these cases, including today's case, was brought and organized by the Alliance Defending Freedom, and a key amicus brief was filed by the Beckett Fund. These are groups that if any of the people that worked at these organizations ran for Congress in a purple district, they'd be targeted.
An amicus brief is basically an organization or even a person that files a brief in support or against the case, that's brought up against in the Supreme Court usually. That's what an amicus brief basically is. So if you guys don't know what that is. And this again is I hate MSNBC's
Tard is extreme and completely lose the election. They hate the direction of the country in the last 50 years. They oppose the Roe decision. They oppose the Obergefell decision. So what do? They go out and they try to find sympathetic finding plaintiffs. And they try to package up these newfangled constitutional arguments that are just dressed up attempts to create a new right to discriminate. They serve it up to the justices, and then justices like Alito and Clarence Thomas that have been licking their chops to try to decide these cases in a favorable way in favor of so-called religious liberty take the cases and presumably are going to issue a decision in favor of this website design company. But this goes exactly to what Elena Kagan was talking about in several appearances that she made throughout the summer and the fall. She said, courts start to lose their legitimacy when the public starts to view them as not behaving like courts. And that's what's happening here. We're only 7 years removed from the Obergefell decision that decided that there was a right to same-sex marriage in this country. We're only 4 years from that decision where they essentially punted on a case with similar facts. The only thing that has changed from the Masterpiece Cake Shop case and from the Obergefell case 7 years ago is that Anthony Kennedy and Ruth Bader Ginsburg are no longer on this court. So justices like Alito and Thomas now believe they have the votes to strike a blow to create a new right to discriminate against same-sex couples in this country.
All right, that's enough of that. That is definitely enough of that. Well, yeah, that's the decision. That's the 303 Creative LLC versus Elena's case. And this may be controversial, maybe a hot take, I don't know, but I agree with the Supreme Court decision. Not because I'm anti-gay marriage or anti-gay. I don't want people to get confused by that. I'm sure there's some people who, if you were watching this, say, "Oh, Angel hates gays." No, that's not the case. The reason why I agree with it is because it's a First Amendment issue. Like a private business shouldn't have to serve a customer that they don't want to serve. They shouldn't have to serve a customer that they don't want to serve. So let's say if they don't want to serve gay people, they shouldn't have to serve gay people. Or they shouldn't have to do business with gay people. That's super abhorrent and super gross and stuff. It doesn't mean that I'm almost done. That doesn't mean that they should, they have to serve these people. That doesn't mean that they have to serve these people. And if they hate, I'm sorry, somebody just walked in the room randomly, so I'm kind of lost track of what I wanted to say. Oh, okay, I got it. If a private business doesn't want to serve gay people, they shouldn't have to do it. And I know that's controversial, and I know it's a hot take. People are not going to like, and that's fine. I understand that. But that's like a First Amendment issue, And then what happened? And the argument people make is, what happens if all of a sudden businesses don't want to serve blacks, or they don't want to serve Hispanics, or they don't want to serve all of these, minor or disabled people, all these minority groups? What happens? I'm like, well, that's on them. If they don't want to serve Hispanics or blacks, that's perfectly fine too. But also, when they go out of business, because a lot of black people, Hispanic people who spend money, they spend money on stuff, and they don't want. If these businesses don't want to serve blacks or Hispanics or very specific Jews, for example, very specific minority, then that's on them. They'll be out of business, and the customers that do serve, or the business do serve everybody, then they'll be in business. because people are also not going to want to patronize a business who doesn't serve everybody, who has restrictions and race or creed or religion or whatever. So yeah, I had somebody walk in the room here while I was doing it. That's why I lost track of what the hell I was saying. Country clubs. That's a good point. I think what is it? What's that club that um what's the club that does the Masters? Um, I think it's that club. Wait, let me see where's the Masters played. I know there's. I could Let me see. It's played Augusta. Yeah, Augusta National Golf Club. I think it's Augusta that to this day or very recently doesn't allow black people to be members. Until very recently, I think. But Augusta, the famous golf club that hosts the Masters every year, they didn't allow black memberships for years, and nobody really cared about that. No, it bothered people obviously, but nobody really did anything because it's a private club, a private business, which is that's my opinion. Look, I don't like it, but you have the constitutional right not to serve people who don't want to serve. And I understand there's some disagreement. Let me see. Screw Google says disagree. You're baking a cake, not being forced to suck a dick. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I know, but and I understand that point. It's like you're no, but still, I mean, ultimately, they have the right not to serve these people. It may affect their business in the long term. I don't know. That's up to the customers to decide where they want to frequent a business that doesn't serve a certain clientele or discriminating against gays or Latinos or blacks or Jews or Muslims, whatever. I mean, if there's a no Muslim sign up somewhere, that's going to be jarring to a lot of people, and they may not want to go into that business. And I wouldn't blame. I wouldn't go in a place that has a sign that goes like, "Oh yeah, there's no blacks allowed, or there's no Muslims, or there's no Jews allowed, no Muslims allowed, or whatever." I'm not going to go in that business. Like, yeah, fuck off, But at the same time, they have the right to do it, and then once they do it, they go out of business. That's on them. That's not on me. So I don't think the government should be interfering too much in that because that's a First Amendment issue. In my personal opinion, I'm sure some of you may disagree in the chat, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, I respect that, and I respect the you guys in the chat. Yes, exactly. If I see a no Muslim sign, it's an I'm racist and intolerant sign to me. It's exactly what it is, and I wouldn't go in that business. I'd tell them get fucked. I'm not going to spend my money there. I'm gonna respond to this and probably wrap up. Well, that's BS. If you're open to the public, you should be forced to serve everyone. Now, if they're causing problems in your place of business, then I get that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I understand your point, but ultimately, it's ultimately we have a difference in opinion, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable, and we can have a long conversation, debate about it. I'm definitely open up to that. I disagree, Angel. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I knew some of you disagree because, that's why I said this is probably going to be a hot take. Desert Mantis says I disagree. That's fine. We don't have to agree. We can still be friends. Oh, yeah, of course. I have no problem with you. No problem with screw Google at all. I'm cool. So, yeah, we're going to disagree from time to time, and we can discuss it in the chat, or maybe I might have a guest on one day, and we can have back and forth on it. I'd definitely like to have guests. I definitely have to have guests and have these type of back and forths. Maybe that'll be something that I'll do over in the coming weeks. So look forward to that. Thank you for the show, Angel. No problem. The real issue is people don't have money. Yeah, that's a lot. A lot of our problems, societal problems, come to the fact that people don't have no money. Hell, I have no money. I pay my bills. I have $0 left, pretty much, which is why I barely have enough food to eat. You are canceled. Yeah, I know. I'm sure if if some liberal prick manages to see the stream and see this part, that part of what I just said in particular, they're gonna clip it out, put it on Twitter, and talk about how I'm a bigot and I'm a racist and I hate gay people. I guarantee you, if I were big enough, if I had more an audience or whatever, I guarantee you that would be on Twitter within 5 minutes. and by the time I'm done eating, by the time I'm done making dinner and look at my Twitter page, I'll be canceled. So I guarantee you that would happen. Right now, I don't know because I don't have, my audience isn't that big yet. But eventually, I'm sure it's gonna happen. I'm glad to see people that are able to shake hands at the end. That's important. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to cancel. I'm not going to block any of you guys watching my stream. I'm not going to do anything like that because I like having different. I like hearing different sides of the argument. It's not just an echo chamber like most online liberals have, the professional ones. They have an echo chamber. As soon as somebody disagrees with them, they melt down on Twitter, they block you, or they argue with you on stream for no reason when you don't have to, etc. Let me read these final comments and then I'm gonna go cook dinner because it's already 4 o'clock. No problem, Bryce. Thank you for the show. After Kyle hears you saying that stuff about Crystal, he will clip it and save in his folder. Says Angel is a meanie folder. Yeah, so that'll do it for this show today. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you share it out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you put notifications on when I'm live or when anybody in INN's live so you don't miss it. And I think that's the plugs. Follow me on Twitter at AngelJRivera08. That's also a shameless plug of mine. Make sure you do that. And I'll thank you much. I'll thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next Friday, 2:15 Eastern Standard Time. Check your local for your local time. You know what? It's easier just to click the bell. Click the bell so you guys can what time I'm on in your area, basically. All right, so have a great rest of your evening. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next weekend. And let me respond to this too before I really do need to wrap up though. The problem with allowing people to refuse business is, what if the grocery store is the only one in the community? Then people can't get food. Well, yeah. I mean, I understand that point, and and I don't think it would apply to like a small grocer. I think that'd be more like a big business thing. But yeah, I understand that point, and we can get into that more next week. I mean, I'll definitely be if you want to bring that up again because right now I do really need to wrap up. So I hope everybody. No, it's cool. It's cool. We definitely, if you remember next week, if you're on earlier enough, then if you want to put that comment down again, I'll definitely respond to that more. But for now, I hope you guys, everybody, great weekend. Everybody has a great Friday. Don't drink too much. Don't do anything stupid this weekend. And I'll see you guys next Friday. Thank you. No problem. Peace out.